got that, Yeshua, and I have a message. Now, I bet you all thought I had totally forgot. I need that staying up for quite a while. I'll get to that. All right. Are you Israel? Yes. If you don't know, go watch all the videos from YSC, and you'll get an idea of who Israel is. Yahweh, open our eyes that we might see wonders from your word. I bet you thought I forgot all about upright ostrich, didn't you? Nope, I haven't. I had to do some other stuff for a couple weeks, so we're going to do an upright ostrich, part 33. That means we don't have our head in the sand, okay? We're up, we're awake, we're alive, and we are aware of our truths. Called Hitting the Mark. And the subtitle would be Yahweh's commands are doable. They have to be. Otherwise, that wouldn't be fair. Okay, in this week's portion, Yahweh is going to give Israel, that's 12 tribes, at the base of Mount Sinai, his commandments. A lot of stuff happens. Literally from about this reading until all the way through Exodus and Leviticus are his commandments and how things are going. He will bring them, that be Israel, to the base of this big old mountain, which is his mountain. That's where the burning bush was. And he's going to teach them his ways. Now get this clearly. Yahweh did not remove Israel from the bondage of Egypt to put them under the bondage of his law. All right? Didn't happen. You on TV, it did not happen. If his law is bondage, it isn't. Go look for the word bondage and his law in this, or Torah or anything like it and see if they appear in the same sentence. They do not. Okay. Yahweh's commandments must be doable. We have to be able to do them. I don't know if doable is a word, but it's good enough for me. Yahweh expects his people, Israel, all 12 tribes, not just the Jews, all 12 tribes, to do his commands. He expects his people to hit the mark. Okay. The Hebrew word for shoot, like arrow shooting, is yara. The Hebrew word to teach is horah. The two words are part of the root of the word Torah. Torah is his commandments, his law. It's a very unfortunate. King Jimmy and so many of the other Bible versions and perversions have said that the Torah, which is instructions, is law. Modern man hates the word law. Torah equals instructions. It's the teach. The concept here is, and that's where the words we saw before, is to shoot and hit the mark. We got to talk about that hitting the mark business. Okay, I needed a metaphor to do this whole discussion. And I need a target metaphor of some kind. Okay. I don't know anything about archery. I doubt seriously that I've ever arched more than once in my whole life. I was going to use golf, but I've never been on a golf range in my whole life. I got no clue about pasture pool. It doesn't mean nothing to me. But I know about a thing called handgun metallic silhouette shooting, because I shot in it for 14 years or so. I was pretty good, actually, and I had a ball. And it just so happens it works perfectly. So we're going to talk about a sport I did. Here's what it is. The game is super simple. There are steel targets at different ranges. You shoot at them, you hit it, and it falls down, you get 1 point. It's beer can shooting with some rules. Each target is sized just right for its range. 50, 100, 150, 200 meters. The targets are just so. They work great. Okay, now in this photo, this is an actual range. They look small, but they're not. They are hittable. You can hit even the ones way out here, the Rams, way out here in the middle of nowhere. 200-meter target. The shooter has to come with the right pistol. That's one of them, and this isn't one of those $10,000 pistols either. This whole thing, $300-400 in your set. The game might look doable, but it isn't. I can teach anyone to shoot this game. That's our son. And he's there shooting. This was mid-'80s. Silhouette is nothing at all like bullseye shooting. Okay? And that's an important distinction. In bullseye shooting, you are awarded points for where you get in this thing here. How close you get to the center, you get more points. If you hit the exact center, the dead center, you get an extra point or 10 extra points or something like that. And that ain't it. It's not what we want. Silhouette shooting, 1 point is awarded for each target that you hit and it falls down. That's important. The objective of the game is to hit the target. Hit it. It'll fall down if you hit it in the right place. If you hit it anywhere, it'll fall down. You get 1 point. Okay, so everybody, I see the faces. What does this have to do with Scripture? I'm glad you asked. Everything. It really does. The steel chicken target is exactly like Yahweh's commandments. It is a target we can hit. It is a 50-meter target, about so big. Looks just like a chicken too, see? Yahweh provides with us the training and the equipment to hit that target. He provides teachers, coaches, to help us hit the target. When at one of these matches, there's very often a spotter watching and helping out the shooter where the bullet hit. Whether you hit dead center, a little off the side, and yes, you can see them as they're traveling. Any hit is a good hit. Any hit is worth 100% of the score. You hit it in the nose and it falls down, you get 100% of 1 point. It's not like bullseye at all. Bullseye implies that you have to do it exactly perfectly. You catching the drift now? It has to be right there. You get higher points for the closer you are to perfect. A hit off center is worth way less than the maximum score. And it just so happens that the chicken target is sized exactly, perfectly right for 50 meters. If you were to shoot at it, line up your sights just right, the chicken target appears to fit right on top of the front sight. It's just big enough in your eyesight that it's there. You go over to the 100-meter target, which are pigs, And they're just the right size, and the next one's turkeys, and they're just the right size, and then you go 200 meters to the rams, and they're all just exactly the right size to sit right on top of your front sight. Easy. That's 200 meters away. You can't tell. They look the same. Oh, I just said that. They are sized so that they can be hit. Okay? You can hit them. They're not impossible targets. Now, Yahweh's targets are sized exactly, perfectly right at all times. They fit perfectly on your front sight. They're sized so they can be hit. They are hittable. There's no such word as we can't do them because it's impossible. It does not exist. Here's something else. Yahweh's commands do not consist of a barn door target. No such thing. They're not barn door. A barn door is not a target. You know that? It's too big. It becomes a non-target. You know, unless you're like 1,000 meters away or something like that. Maybe that'd be cool. But otherwise, it's not even a target. If you're placed in front of a barn door and you're asked, shoot at it, where? Hitting it's a no-brainer. You can stand back, pow, and you got it. Nothing to it. Yahweh's commands can't be this way. Okay. They require effort to hit. A barn door there's absolutely no effort to hit a barn door close up. Yeah, whatever. Although I have seen people that could miss it, standing in front of it. You ever watch Star Wars? The guys in the white plastic stuff? They couldn't hit a barn door if they tried. Okay, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Okay. Yahweh's targets require concentration and a deliberate intention to hit them. They require a thing called kavanah. Kavanah is a Hebrew word, and it roughly means heartfelt intention. When we do liturgy here, doing it, going step by step to each one's called keva. And that's just the way we do things. Just boom, 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 boom. Next, 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 next. I've been to services where they can do the entire 18 blessings of the Amidah, almost like Catholics doing the Lord's Prayer. Instantaneous, nearly. Too fast. There's no kavanah. The kavanah is gone. The heartfelt intention isn't there. When we do here, when we do the liturgy, we try hard to get this kavanah, this heartfelt intention in it. Yahweh's targets are like that. They take work to hit, concentration. Now, by the way, it's not a men's game. I've seen women shoot this that can outshoot men by a lot. All right. We need some examples of Yahweh's targets, yes? Because otherwise I'm just talking about some silly stuff. None of you are ever going to go do it. He gives us doable commands. The command is hittable. He gives a command like that to Adam. And he says to him, you can eat all the fruit from any of the trees you want, except that one tree. The knowledge of good and evil. Now, Yahweh could have put a chain link fence around it and barbed wire, electrified it, guard towers and everything. He didn't. He just, there it was. He didn't protect it in any way. He made the target reasonable. Don't eat that tree from that tree. Easy, doable. He gave a clear, concise command. And he built into Adam all of the skills and tools he needed to hit that target. Adam understood his words. He understood what it meant, don't do that. And he even knew where the tree was. And he had this great big old garden full of all kinds of trees. Wow. But he went, anyway. You need an incentive. Otherwise, we're just doing something. There is an incentive for all of this. Back in the mid-'80s, I was actively shooting in this. My son decided, hey, I want to check this thing out. So we had a whole lot of training and stuff at home. We get out there, and he would not follow my directions, and he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Almost. Not quite that bad, but real close. He was rebelling at my instructions. I offered him an incentive. You put your elbow down, you don't manhandle that trigger, breath control, sight picture, and if you get 5 chickens, I'll buy you a gun. Took him a while. He got 5 chickens. I bought him a gun. That was a good incentive. So Yahweh gives Adam an incentive and says, if you eat it, you die. Reverse that. If you don't eat it, you live. How simple is that? And he messed up anyway. Yes, everybody says when they meet him, they're going to kick him in the shins. Yahweh doesn't give us vague directions. He didn't give Adam a vague direction. You know, there's a tree over there someplace, just stay away from it. He was specific. Yahweh is always specific. Everything specific. He told us that Yeshua was going to come. Specific. Moses says, there is a prophet coming after me, far greater than myself. We were told. He never gives us any kind of barn door vague thing. Doesn't exist. He doesn't give us targets that are impossible to hit. Really, this is where the church is messing people's brains up. They tell everybody, you can't do all of the commandments. No, you can't do all of man's commandments. We're going to talk a little bit here about the Sabbath. I'll tell you what, we had some Orthodox people stay with us for a while, and when it came to the Sabbath, she went around the house, taped over all of the light switches, because you can't turn a light on. She taped the light switch inside the refrigerator so that the light wouldn't come on when you open the door. And then they had some contraption so that you turn the light on in their room before dark, before sundown, and it stays on all the whole 24 hours, the whole Sabbath, and you just rotate this little thing. They followed Orthodox's rules. Anybody that when you want to start doing this stuff, do not go to Orthodox Judaism to find out what you're supposed to do. Leave them alone. It'll take you nothing flat to say, I'm not going to do all of this. That's what Peter's talking about when he says they're impossible. Okay? Yahweh didn't do that. Man did. Stay away from man's stuff. He's a maniac. He doesn't put the target so far away that we can't hit it, and he doesn't make it so tiny. Now, I got to tell you, in that particular sport, some of the guys shooting this were pretty good. and they had to do shoot-offs. So they're shooting at the chicken target at 200 meters, which is a tiny, itty-bitty spot on top, and they're hitting it. Those pistols are that accurate. Yahweh provides us with all the correct equipment. All of it works perfectly, all of the time. What is between your ears works. I don't care about the jokes and stuff like that. It really works. I had an MRI. Was it an MRI or a CT scan? I had something the other day, last week, and they said, yeah, we have to go up to your brain, we've got to do all these things. And it was there. I have no excuse. And if we did an MRI on you, we'd find you have a brain too. You got no excuse, and you have everything you're supposed to have to do these. Perfect working order. He provides us with the instructions. They're right there in the book. You come to places like this one and other places like us, we will teach you the best we can the proper instructions on how to properly do it. Guess what? You get points just for showing up. Now, here's the deal. If you are here on the Sabbath, if you are at home resting on the Sabbath, not working, you get a point. Now, this isn't a game of scoring points or anything like that, but you get the point. He gives us points for trying. Some real good friends of ours, the Austins, had, well, we talked for a while. Anyhow, to shorten the story considerably, they decided to follow the Sabbath. Friday night starts the Sabbath at sundown. Yes. Saturday after sundown sometime ends the Sabbath. Okay, they got that down. Don't work. Okay, they did. So what do you guys do when you, oh, well, we have a meal usually. Oh, cool. They did. Roast pork. They didn't know, but they got the point for trying. They were exactly doing what they were supposed to be doing on the Sabbath, and they rested the whole next day. There was no talk in that household about work or any of those other kinds of things. They followed Isaiah 58, 13 and 14, where it says, don't do your own thing. He expects us to be there with the equipment that he gave us. You have a Bible. Read it. As far as I know, everyone knows how to read. I realize that there's a lot going on in the school systems to take away that thing, and I think that's why. Because if you read, and the Holy Spirit talks to your head and says, what you're reading, you can do, and it'll slide down to your heart, and you gain a desire to do it, and you start doing it. When we come under that conviction that we're under Torah and we're required to obey Torah, and by the way, you can say whatever you want. Well, Jesus came and did away with all of the law. He took all of the curses, so I don't have to follow the law and everything else. That is all nonsense. And we've only mentioned that here probably every week, maybe, close to that anyhow. He didn't do that. The world will be judged by Torah. What is sin? Don't follow Torah. That's sin. What else could it possibly be? I heard pastors talk about don't sin. Don't sin. What is sin? Not following this quote. Not following the will of God. What's that? Great men of the church have determined what the will of God is. unquote. That ain't true at all. Okay. Many of us friends will tell us we don't have to do that. That's not true. Okay, we're at a disadvantage because we've had so much negative. If we've been in church for any length of time, you've had so much negative and even destructive teaching about Torah. I just told you an example that concentrate on the laws are too hard to follow. Yeah, man's laws are. And don't go blaming the Jews for all that stuff. The Christian churches have got some pretty weird laws too, you know, depending on the denomination. When a church shepherd gets up and starts saying stuff, people have to believe it. I mean, this guy's their shepherd. He knows what he's talking about. He's got a PhD in theology. He should understand those things. Who am I to question him? Well, I don't know. I did. Okay, we might be under the impression that we have to follow the commands perfectly. No, that's not so. I just gave you an example of what the Austins did. They went and talked to somebody, and they said, you know, we don't eat pork. Oh. Okay, so they stopped eating pork. That was easy. They corrected the problem. It wasn't their fault. We don't have to hit it exactly in the dead center, or else. It's that or else thing. You know, and that's what we've been taught. It's the or else. And it scares the snot out of everybody. You don't want to do anything because you might make a mistake. You're going to make mistakes. We do it all the time. You ought to come here every week. We'll find out how many mistakes we make. We do. Good. Some recovering Christians have been told there are 613 commandments. And they've come to the conclusion, there's 613 commands. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, I can't possibly do that. Well, that's ridiculous. I was told by some guy when he says, well, how many commands are there? I said, 613. Oh, you got to follow all of them? Well, kind of. And he was just all bent out of shape. Well, here's the deal. They're frightened by large numbers, yeah. We're considered under legalistic bondage. And that's not a part of Torah at all. The word bondage and Torah never go together. Yahweh didn't give us his commands to put us under bondage. All right. Americans follow the law of the land. We've got 7 billion traffic laws of some kind or another to follow. We got all kinds of other laws that everybody follows without complaint. If you do that, you're considered a good citizen. Yes? Matter of fact, a lot of us are really upset with what has been going on with the zoo in Washington. Wait, we got to follow those commands. How come you don't? Can I send the Department of Justice a list of commands I don't want to follow or laws I don't want to follow anymore? Why not? They're doing it. Okay, that's an aside. Never mind. Makes us good citizens. I just said that. The church has taught us that following the commands makes us legalistic. I have been told by pastors, you're bringing us back under the synagogue of Satan. You're bringing us under legalism, under bondage. What? What's so hard about the Sabbath? You know. All right, here's a reality check. This is for real. This is a pie chart, right, of the commands. There's 613 commands in there. The green over there is everybody. You notice that it is not 100% of the circle. It's even less than 50%. Now, if you're a king in the land, this doesn't apply outside the land. It's kings in the land of Israel. You got to do stuff. Judges in the land of Israel. You got to do stuff. Those who are married, so those of us in here that are married, we got a couple extra commands. What's next? Lepers. Anybody in here a leper? Okay. If you were, you got some commands. Women have special commands. Men have special commands only, that is. And those with animals in the land. A farmer that has cows and sheep and stuff in the land has some special commands. Pertaining to living in the land, there's special laws. High priest, anybody fit that? Notice that's pretty wide. Farmers, what? Those with servants. Anybody got a servant? In the land. And the priests. They got a lot of stuff to do. All that sacrifice stuff belongs to them. Well, are we supposed to start sacrificing in our backyard? No! All sacrifices are done in the temple, period. And they're done by the priesthood, period, not you. You bring the sacrifice, but you got to bring it to the temple to the priest. Not yet. That day's coming, but it ain't yet. So that's it. Now there's different numbers, and I think there's something around 270, but people argue with me about it. Anyway, not all 613, but all 613 are applicable. Do you know that there are commands? For example, we just read about when they were having that Passover meal and they left Egypt. They were supposed to have their staff in their hand, their sandals and all their stuff on and everything else. That command doesn't exist anymore. That was a one-shot thing for those people leaving the land. So was the way they cooked that sheep. Why did they cook the sheep that way? Aha! A sheep is one of the gods of the Egyptians. And they cooked it and ate it. Must have really upset them guys. All right, where do we start? Done a lot of talking so far. We got to start somewhere. The target Yahweh has given us that we can hit. Here's the place to start. A pastor said this any number of times. I've said it. I've been saying it now for whatever it's been, 18, 19 years. Start with the Sabbath. Everyone can count to 6. 6 days. Add one more finger. 6. The next day is a Sabbath. And it just so happens that Saturday is the Sabbath day. Begins at sundown and ends after sundown. You know, everyone knows when sundown is. You can look it up in the newspaper, for those that still read newspapers, or it's online. If you can see the western horizon, you know when Sabbath starts. It is, I'm going to say, the most hittable command. It's easy. You're commanded to rest. You're commanded to take a day off. You're commanded to sit back, put your feet up, cool it. All right? You're not commanded to do anything. Now get this. Why the 7th day? Because in 6 days Yahweh created the heavens and the earth and all that is within them. On the 6th day he created man. And on the 7th day, man got to do the very first thing ever. Take a break. He got to have the Sabbath. What a deal. That's also why we celebrate the 7th day, because we're participating in Yahweh's creation every single week. If you do it on the first day, everything's out of sync. See? And we're going to read that because it's in Exodus 20. Remember the Sabbath day. Set it apart. Piece of cake. It's a chicken command. It's clear. It's concise. It's sized just right. It's at exactly the correct range. It is a perfect target. And it's totally hittable. And if something comes up and you don't do this right or you don't do that right, don't worry about it. If you continue to search the scriptures, you're going to find more instructions about the Sabbath. Okay, what I have advised Christians doing, recovering Christians, just start observing it. Stop working. Don't ask the Jews what work means. You will be confused probably within 10 minutes. Very difficult to follow those commands, their commands. Just don't work. Don't do your job thing. Don't talk about it either. That's it, okay? You gain the desire to obey when you obey. Does that sound upside down? It is. When you obey, you get the desire to obey. When you fall in love, you get the desire to stay in love with the person you're in love with. We're in love with Yahweh. We follow his commands. We love Yeshua. Who do you think gave the commands? James tells us he's the lawgiver. He did it. Oh, by the way, we don't have to do these. We get to. Salvation is something you've already got. It's not as big a deal as the Christians want to make it to be. It's a pretty simple thing. You believe, you're saved. Oh, by the way, that's in the commands. Because if you read between the lines of the commands, you have to believe in order to follow the commands. So you're saved. So you get to follow the commands. That just shows that you love Yahweh, because he said, do this. You okay, I'll do it. There's a reward. He gives us targets. He gives us clear instructions. He tells us we will receive blessings in Deuteronomy 28. You start out with if you obey my commands. I'm going to give you stuff you won't imagine. Oh, if you don't, well. And it's re-emphasized again. It's clear Yahweh expects his people to follow his commands and obey them. Do you know who the evil one is going to go after in Revelation? He's not going after the people that don't follow his commands. They're already his. He's going after the ones that follow his commands. And Yeshua says, whoever does and teaches them, that'd be the commands, shall be called great in the reign of the heavens. Okay? That's it. Those points, or whatever, I couldn't think of any other term, so I'm just calling it that. I don't think that's what it really is. But by the fact that you are doing them and you tell others to do them, you're great. And there's a reward for missing the mark. Sin is lawlessness. It says so. So when people practice lawlessness, Yeshua is really serious about this. In Matthew 7, he says, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. You who do not do the Torah. And in Matthew 13, we're told they're going to be thrown into a furnace of fire wherein there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. All right, here's what we do. If you're hearing this message and missing the mark or working lawlessness, you need a new sport. You need a new game. You need to do it right. That guy again. So let's take up hitting the mark. Here's what you do. Do teshuvah. Repent from missing the mark, from sinning. Then follow Yahweh's instructions and start hitting the mark. That's it. That's the whole message. Okay, I had some closing comments. Now, these are some pictures taken at that very same match where you saw my son Alex. That's me. That's Margaret. It's what we looked like back in the 80s. Okay.